Yes, as we're thinking about this question, we compare what Chairman Powell is doing to what Chairman Volcker did in the late 70s, early 80s, when he was fighting an inflation problem that had been building for 15 years. Vietnam War, Great Society, closing the gold window. That was a real inflation problem that built up over 15 years. This inflation problem has been 12 to 15 months by the time the Fed started addressing it. And we think it's much more a function of supply chain imbalances caused by COVID and then again by Russia's invasion of Ukraine. These are very, very different circumstances. So what the Fed has done this time around is it has increased interest rates. If they go another 75 basis points, which is very likely on November 2nd, they will have increased interest rates from 0.25 to 4%. And that's a 16-fold increase. What did Volcker do? In the early 80s, he took interest rates from 10 to 20%. That's a twofold increase after consumers and businesses had gotten used to dealing with inflation and working around it over 15 years. This is a real shock to the system. And I do believe we will see the ramifications in many ways. We're seeing housing shutting down. And I think we're going to see a lot of other activities shutting down as well. We believe we're in a recession, and we believe this recession now will be sustained. And if we see an increase in GDP, it's probably because either inventories are continuing to increase or imports are coming down as companies try to unwind their inventories. Well, what's interesting, I think many people are coming around to the idea that we're in a recession or we're going into a recession. The first two quarters with real GDP growth negative to us means we're in a recession. And now that many people are worried and are beginning to see recession for as far as the eye can see, we are looking at this recession a little bit differently. We think it's going to be a function of this massive inventory overhang, and that it's going to be a serious inventory correction, but it's not going to be anything like we saw in 08, 09. That was a systemic financial problem caused by the mortgage and financial meltdown. We don't think this is the same thing. So now that many economists are starting to agree with us that we're in a recession or going into a recession, we feel that they might become a little bit too alarmist if this is just an inventory recession. And I think the Fed will have a lot to do with whether or not it is. This is a shock, though, to the system. And this idea that we have an inventory overhang, we think it's going to get bigger as consumers pull back. Low saving rates, 3.5% versus 8% where it was before COVID. And so we'll see. We think this holiday season is going to be pretty tough.